Test, test.
Okay, well, hey, welcome everyone. Today we're blessed to have Lloyd and Julie Stumple from all the way from Elk Mound, Wisconsin to the hot south. Yeah, Julie's enjoying this hot weather. Lloyd is not. But they are co-founders of Honduras Well Projects. And although they work in Honduras, they're from Wisconsin, they are known in this area. Not only to our church, I've been drilling with them before. Brian Davis has been with us. John Newman from Centerpoint has been with them. Jen Humber from Cusada. And my co-interviewer, Scott Overby, my brother, from Heritage in Montgomery. So they have associations with all those churches in this area. So we're blessed to have them here today. And Scott and I are going to interview them and do this a little bit differently and just hear from them about their ministry, what they do, how they do it. And we're hoping some of you will go with us, okay? We hope some more people will go with us. So I think we're ready to start, but I wanted to let Lloyd and Julie just give some introductory remarks, a little bit of info about your family, not the full thing on the ministry, because I know you're going to show a video that's coming up, right?
Yes.
So give you just a little intro, and then we'll roll the video as it comes up.
Well, good morning, everybody. We have lived in northern Wisconsin all our life, and we have 2 children. We've been married for 20 years. Skylar has now given us 3 grandchildren, and Grayson is our son who's 14. So we have an extensively wide family outside of that. I have 5 siblings. So growing up as a family-oriented business in a way, and we started out, we had a landscape business for 20 years, and here we are. So I was asked outside what kind of background we had in well drilling, and I said absolutely none. So other than going on mission trips like everybody else here has been doing, that's how we got started in all this. So anything you want to add?
Do you want to roll the first video?
Let's
Okay,
do that.
there's a video, it's called Who We Are. It's this one, so take a look at it.
The water situation in Honduras is dire. We are seeing communities that are still gathering water from contaminated rivers. They're using hand-dug wells. They're not getting deep enough to get to the clean water. This is such a great need. A lot has been done with the water crisis, but there's still a lot more to do.
Northern Honduras is somewhat unique in the sense that
Okay, great video to introduce your ministry, and that kind of leads into a question we had about how did you get started? You told the story yesterday about Aquaviva, and you co-founded with Brad and Casey. So tell us how that started, 2019 maybe.
So Lloyd and I started doing water missions work about 14 years ago. We were traveling with another organization, and we were drilling wells in Honduras, Guatemala. We've been to Haiti and Nicaragua. But when we were in Honduras and we were working with the staff of Agua Viva, that was the organization I spoke about in the video, there was just something different that was about them. It truly was a Christ-centered organization. They are all ministers in their own field, and we felt just really drawn to them. And we learned that the organization that was partnered with them for about 20 years had decided that there was a greater need in the south part of Honduras, and so they were going to be phasing out their partnership with Agua Viva, and they would be taking the drill rig and the trucks and all the equipment and moving 11 hours south to service that area of the country, which was in dire need. Well, Lloyd and I had been traveling for several years there, and we just couldn't imagine that there still wasn't a need for water, which we quickly realized there are hundreds and hundreds of villages that are still looking for water. But we couldn't imagine the staff of Agua Viva not having equipment to continue the ministry of the kingdom building that happens when we come into a community and drill water. So Lloyd and I were on a little family vacation, and we were in the middle of Yellowstone National Park, and I started to tell Lloyd, I have this crazy idea. What if we were to become like Agua Viva USA? What if we were to fundraise for a drill rig and some equipment? And what if, and Lloyd is like, we run a business, we are volunteers at our church, we have little kids, when would we have time? And I'm like, I don't know, I just find this is crazy. And at that exact same time, my phone rang. Oddly enough, to get reception in the middle of Yellowstone, and it was Dennis Miller, who is a lead driller for Agua Viva, and he said, Julie, I have something crazy to ask you. I'm sitting here with the Agua Viva staff, and we just don't know what should happen next, and I know it's crazy, but have you ever thought about maybe becoming our partner? And I said, what is more crazy than that, Dennis, is I was literally just talking to Lloyd about it. And I said, let us get home, continue praying, see who we can help join us in this. I hung up the phone and I was like, God, you are crazy. There is no way we can do this. How are we supposed to do it? And you know that Jesus, he can be pretty bossy. And when he wants you to do something, he will just be right here until you are sweating and the hair on your neck stands up, and finally you're just like, okay, God, I know I'm fearful of this, but if you don't call me into it, you're going to call somebody else, and I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss the blessing. And so Lloyd was on board. We just didn't know how. So we got home, we called our partners, some friends of ours that we had done multiple trips with that was out in Oregon. Brad, Casey, you know what's happening down in Honduras. They're about to end operations unless somebody steps in and does something. And we were wondering if you, and before we could finish the sentence, they said, we're in. We're in. And that's how it started. That was in 2019. And then we had this huge goal in front of us that we had to raise, about $500,000 so we could start getting all the equipment. And I'm telling you, once the yes was spoken, God was answering. He was putting everybody in place. He was putting things in line. People were stepping up to have fundraisers. Checks were coming in. And it was the beauty that Lloyd says in that video. We can't do it all, but we can all do something. And the money that it took to start the organization didn't come by somebody giving us $100,000 checks. It came from lemonade stands from little kids. It came from $50. It came from a group of farmers in our little town that gave us $1,000. So that's how it all became funded. And we sent the drill rig and the truck and compressor down in the height of COVID, spring of 2020. It was great to work internationally at that time. But everything arrived in Honduras, and we put our first well in the ground in October of 2020.
That is such a beautiful story, testimony. It's never odd. It's always God, especially if we respond properly, like you did. Praise the Lord for being sensitive to the Spirit of God. Tell us a little bit more about the local Aqua Viva team, about their personalities, maybe a little bit. And one of the things that I understand and I've experienced is that they're pastors, they're ministers of the gospel. They're not just drillers, professional drillers. They're amazing. So tell us a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, so we have 10 people that work in country. They're all Honduran or from Roatan, which is part of Honduras. When we originally started, the director there was named Emilio, and I know John knows Emilio. And, when he passed, it kind of changed their direction a little because he had been there and their leader for 25 years. So when he suddenly passed, they had to come up with who's next. So one of the lead drillers, Dennis Miller, then became the leader of their nonprofit in Honduras. So Alfredo, who heads up with part of the repair and maintenance section of what we do, he's an assistant pastor at his church down there. And in Honduras, most of the pastors are not paid. So they have to have a job to help support their life so they can be a pastor. So he works with us and then is the assistant pastor. Dennis is the worship leader at the same church. They all go to the same church. It's called Lighthouse Church. You can actually find them online. Very Pentecostal, very loud. Very loud and very animated.
I take my earbuds every time.
Yeah, they are definitely moving. But everybody there it's worship and serve first. And you see it in their church. You see it when they go to the villages. Our teams see it when they go. And that's part of what we fell in love with when we started doing this. And right before the transition was made, it was kind of falling out of the church part of it. We start every trip by going to church on Sunday. So you get in on Saturday, Sunday morning, you're going to a Honduran church. And I think that's the best way you could possibly start a week of service is by worshiping not only with the people you're serving with, but in the communities to see their style of worship. We worship the same God. It's all the same. It's just a matter of how we do it. So to see that and to be part of that, and then to know that all 10 of those people have some relationship in their church and they're very, very spiritual is just a great way to partner.
And the singing is fabulous because so many of them are musically inclined, and so they're tapping along and they're tapping on here and their voices are loud. And so if you like to sing, or even if you like to just listen, it's a very musical group too.
And they do bilingual service. So somebody speaks in Spanish or English and they translate either way. But sometimes the songs are not. And even though I've been going a long time, I still don't speak Spanish. But to just stand there, a lot of times I'll close my eyes. I feel it. I don't even need to know what they're saying. I just know it and I feel it. So that to me is a great way to start.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of being able to experience that myself and have really enjoyed that. And they are such godly people. But it's not just that they're a minister, and it's not just that they're expert drillers and we're just going to supply the labor and hopefully raise some funds to help. But when we go into those villages, and you can tell a little bit about that, when you go into that village, what actually happens because of the ministry that takes place. It's like Dennis said, the drilling is the bait. What we're trying to do is win people to Christ. And talk a little bit about that, because when they're in the villages, there's, oh my gosh, the needs. And then they are just kick in as a minister, and next thing you know, we got a group of people laying hands on and praying on somebody. And what a great experience. Go ahead.
Right, so obviously, we cannot survive without water, right? Water is a basic life necessity. Natural disaster comes along, what's the first thing missing on the Walmart shelves? All the water is going in the carts. We can do all sorts of ministry out there, but if the kids are getting sick and the people are pulled away from their jobs and all of these things, we know that water is a basic life necessity. It's a human right to have clean water. So that is our purpose for being there, is to drill that water. But we also know that it's our key in, because after we are in the village, it's all about relationships. And it's all about showing who Jesus is, who he's been to us. We're learning from them. Who has Jesus been to them? What has he done? What's he going to do? What's he doing? The Agua Viva staff is very attuned to seeing people that are on the margins in the community. Maybe there's that farmer that's just leaning against the fence post over here, and they're attuned to that, and they will pull you and say, hey, let's go, hey, Lloyd, I know you're a farmer, you grew up on farms, let's go over and talk to that guy, and let's break down that border that's between us, and let's get to the heart. And when you're on a mission trip and you have 6 days on a mission, where you're 4 days in a community, you don't waste any time, right? You know, we've all maybe caught an episode or two of Bachelor, and we're like, how do they fall in love in 6 weeks? Well, that's because when you are focused in on something, you're going to see it and you're going to make it happen. And when you're on these mission teams, you're like, I got 4 days. I have 4 days to break through to somebody and share about who Jesus is. That's who I want people to fall in love with this week. And the Agua Viva staff also, they see that kid that's marginalized, right? Maybe it's, they can just tell who is the kid that doesn't seem to be pulled in and involved, or there's a medical need. And so they take the team that travels and one-on-one, and they get you connected. So you don't feel like you have to go in as a minister. I don't have to go in knowing all the things or being super qualified. They do it with the teen kids that come and the college kids that come, and they are your connector, you know, and then they help you. They help draw out your story. They see the best in you, and they want you to be able to experience Jesus in the village that week, being Jesus and letting others be Jesus to you. And so that Agua Viva staff is just really attuned to it.
Hey, we've seen the area down there that's hundreds of thousands of acres of palm plantations, and a lot of the people work in those plantations. So describe to the congregation here, what is life like for a typical family? What do they do in the palm plantations? How much do they earn, if you know that? A little bit about that life.
Yeah, so what used to be, we'll say bananas, different types of crops have now been overtaken just because of the value of the palm oil. You look on labels, it's in makeup and foods and all sorts of things, so it's a big commodity. But the people that work in there generally don't make a lot of money. Anywhere, like some of the lower level people that just walk around and pick up the loose nuts after they fall, maybe $5, $10 a day, up to about the guys that are actually with a long 30-foot long knife cutting the clumps off the top of the tree. They might make about $15 a day. So if they end up going home and have to buy water so that they can make it to work, they're not sick, the bottled water, it costs basically the same thing we pay here. So when you look at that as far as what they have as spendable income and trying to buy food for their family and all those things, it really takes away from what they're able to do if they have to purchase water. And really it's the same whether they're in a banana plantation or pretty much anything. They're all very low paid positions. So they do struggle, and often you'll see extended family. It might only be let's say a 12 by 20 house, and there might be 10 to 14 people living in that house. Just a series of bunk beds, maybe a dirt floor. It's a pretty tough, when you get out into the countryside, it's a pretty tough way of life.
Right, and that when you only have a limited amount of income, and you think it's going to take one day of my salary this week to buy purified water for my family, or I can send my girls down to that river. And they can make the walk with the buckets. They can bring it back. My wife can boil it. She can sift it through the cloth. We can let it cool in the Coca-Cola. You know, you're going to do that because you need your income for your food or for the fuel in your vehicle so you can get there. And so that burden of gathering water typically falls on the kids and the women. Anybody have an idea of how much a 5-gallon pail of water weighs?
40 pounds.
Right on the money. Yeah, 40 pounds. I don't want to carry 40 pounds to that door, let alone 3 miles up and down. And I've seen women and I've seen girls the age of these young girls in the front row here, one on the head and one in each hand, 120 pounds. I mean, that's probably how much you weigh, 120 pounds, and you're carrying your weight in water. You know, school is only half a day. They go to school for half a day, and so you got to leave before the sun comes up to make it down to the river to get the water, to come back, get ready for school, and get to school. So now it rains, the road is treacherous, you're late coming back. These girls aren't going to school. You're already 2 hours late, there's only 2 hours left of school, you haven't had time to comb your hair, you're not going to school, right? Or worse, in some of these palm plantations, and the palm workers know that these young girls are on that same trail every morning, 4:30 a.m., and we're seeing a lot of sexual assault and abuse happen. But mom has to send her again the next day. We need the water. We're without water. So, you know, this is doing a lot to the education of kids, the health of people. And one thing that I've really been talking more about lately is the dignity of a man. So we know that men, you show your love for your family by how hard you work for them and what you provide for them. And a man's dignity comes because you want to provide. They are the provider. And how disheartening it is to a man to not be able to give this basic life need to their family. Or to know that my girl is being assaulted on that trail, but I have to go to work and somebody needs to get the water, right? So it strips the men of dignity. And when we come in and we drill the well and we invite them, you know, we're not there to just do all the work. We're inviting that community, and the men are coming to work alongside you to drill the well. It's restoring their dignity. That's their well. They just needed a piece of equipment to get to the water. They had all the desire, they had the hands, they had the will. They just didn't have that piece of equipment. When churches like this say, we'll sponsor that well, look at all that you're giving to a community. It's the water, it's the relationship, it's Jesus, it's health, it's security and safety, it's dignity, all wrapped into that drop of clean water.
That is so beautiful. You know, Lloyd, there are so many needs, so many villages, so many plantations. How in the world do you vet, or the process, what is the process for Aqua Viva to come in and get these people a well? What's the process look like for us?
Yeah, so we have a petition system. So if I'm a leader of a village, I have to fill out the paperwork and I petition Agua Viva for a well. A lot of times when we're drilling, they just show up. Neighboring villages, sometimes they might be 50 miles away and they've heard through the grapevine that we're there, and they'll show up one day and beg basically to get us to come, or to get somebody to come and get that water and look at so they can get a well. The well itself has to be, somebody has to donate a piece of land. It has to be a public piece of property. I can't own the property it sits on because they don't want someone to say you can't use it. So it has to be available for everybody. So quite often we're using churches or schoolyards to put those in. But if those aren't happening, usually somebody in the community will donate a piece of land big enough to put that on, which, if you think about it, you really don't have much. Like a lot to them, a house lot might be 50 by 50. So if they give up a quarter of that for a well, that's a big expense. But it means so much for them to have that well in their community that they're willing to do it. so that, or pastors, that kind of the leader of the community, and they'll set aside that land, they legally deed it, they figure out where it's gonna go, then they start to get the community involved. We do ask that the community gets involved in every well. They help with as much as they can. Some places they can't afford to help with food and things for the teams, but other places they're there help working, they're help prepping. They monitor our equipment all night, so somebody stands outside by our equipment all night long to make sure nothing happens. So it's a bit of a system, but there's no lack of petitions.
It's very common that when we're drilling, there's going to be several trucks that show up that week of people asking us to come. And the government is asking us. Like Lloyd mentioned, they call it a department, but it's like a county. And Dennis is in contact with those county or department leaders, and they are taking Dennis out and saying, here's a whole new area that needs water. It's an interesting governmental system, for sure.
So you're hearing a lot about well drilling, but this ministry does other activities down there. So describe a few of those. I know you do equipment maintenance, some ladies' events, things like that. What else does Aquaviva and HWP do?
Right, so we named it Honduras Well Projects because we wanted to be able to continue to invest in communities after the well is there. And so when a team is working to drill the well, they're kind of looking around and saying, what else is this community or this school or this church trying to do, but they just don't have the extra hands to make it happen, or maybe they don't have the resources to make it happen. And we want to make sure that we're always coming alongside, that we're not coming in over. So we start talking to the leaders, whether it's the actually named leader of the community, or it's just somebody that stands out and you're like, that woman knows what's going on around here. And we start asking those same questions. And what we found most often, medical. So we have then came back and sent medical brigades into that community. We've done VBS. So maybe a bunch of seeds had been planted that week with all the little kids, but the local church is like, we just don't have people that can help foster up the little kids. And so we'll bring a team of high schoolers or college kids and offer a week of VBS, and then bringing some supplies that can be left with the church so that maybe they can do another one a little bit later. So VBS, medical brigades, there's been some construction projects that have happened, and my personal favorite, of course, is the Beloved. We call it the Beloved Project, and we take a group of women and we spend a whole week doing women's ministry.
So, thank you for sharing that, and it just gets broader and broader, doesn't it, as God brings people to the ministry that have a passion and see a vision, and then it's run through the board and the local team. How in the world is all this funded?
Lloyd looks up to God, that's right.
Yeah. We've learned that there's really nothing that's coincidental. I mentioned that yesterday. Everything just seems to happen at the right time in the right way and things. And when people say yes, that's the first step in funding it. Once they say yes and they start talking to people about doing it, everything just kind of starts to fall in place. But for like the wells, let's just say a church would fundraise, or sometimes somebody donates the money to supply the well, and then the team, we have a team participation, which covers like your room, your board, your transportation, once you're in country and stuff. So then the way our church does it is we do a fundraiser once a year, and that money is then used to help send people. So we don't just go to, our church just doesn't go to Honduras, they go other places, but they'll cover about roughly a third of our participation fee. And then what they ask us to do is that we come up ourselves with a third so that we have some skin in the game, so to speak. And then they ask us to send letters to other people to fundraise the other third. So that's how they work with the trip participation. And for our wells at our church, we do something at Christmas time they call Advent Conspiracy. And they ask that you, instead of buying 5 presents for your child or whatever you might buy, take 1 or 2 of those and put that money to a cause to help somebody else. So our church, for instance, has maybe 5, some local, some international partners that they work with, and in our case, Honduras Well Projects is one of those. And then they fill out a card and they donate that money to that cause. And through that month or so before Christmas, they usually raise enough to cover more than like a well or more. And that's how they fundraise there.
Right, and so with Honduras, well, so that's how our church funds wells, that's how our church sends teams. And for the well projects, where our funding comes from is churches like yourself that are sponsoring the well. We have businesses like McKinnis Construction, they've sponsored wells, but on the monthly, there are people that provide monthly donations from $25 to $100. Like I mentioned before, we have vacation Bible schools throughout the U.S. that throughout the week of VBS, they're teaching about the kids and what life is like there, and they have a little pump at the door, and the kids are collecting coins, and kids are funding wells. And then when the team comes back from that church, they present to the kids, and they bring home the pictures, and they show the kids, here's what your offering went to. Fundraisers, I think we've sold the paint off the walls to raise money. There is nothing we haven't done. There's a group of girls in Louisiana. They walk 118 miles in 3 days, and they are representing the number of miles a family walks in a month for water. And they're like, well, we got to be to work on Monday, so we're going to leave Friday, and we'll be back Sunday. And they've done this every other year, and they raise about $50,000 in that weekend from walking 118 miles, which if you want to do the math, it's 50 miles on day one, and you can do the rest of the math from there. But the beautiful thing that we have learned about this organization is I'm grateful for the $5 lemonade stand money, and I'm grateful for those girls that walk, and the VBS kids. It's everybody doing something, just like the kingdom should be.
Great stories, and we've heard more about their fundraising, a lot of creativity. We're down to, we have about 10 minutes for questions. We won't leave about 5 for Q&A from the audience here, but so I'm going to have to skip a few questions. But there may be someone sitting in the audience that says, I'd love to do that, but I'm afraid to go. What is there to fear? Is there anything to fear? And I think you're going to show a video to couple with this question. And I will people know that drug cartels are down there, a lot of violence and crime between the cartels, but we have never been in a position where we felt unsafe down there.
Okay, sure. So we've partnered with Agua Viva, who has been working in that country for over 25 years, and they are a very respected and revered organization. And so when you see their logo on anything, the people of all levels know that they're bringing clean water, and everybody needs clean water. We also make sure that we're staying at vetted hotels. We're staying at the same hotel. We're staying at the same, or we're stopping at the same gas stations. There's a lot of that that Agua Viva puts into place for our safety. And to be honest, there's been a lot I've seen in the U.S., and I'm more afraid to travel to some places in the U.S. over the last 3 years than I am when I'm in Honduras. But yes, it's a developing country. Yes, it's always at a level 3. But we have a list of security that we ask our teams to follow. We don't go out at night. We're back. We're off the roads by dark. We're in a hotel that has guards, and all of that sort of thing is part of that safety. But there's a fear level, to do just about anything, and it just takes your yes of saying, I'm trusting God's protection in this.
And I will say that the Agua Viva staff is very protective of the team. They will not let you go anywhere by yourself, anywhere. So they're always there beside you and taking care of you. Did you want to show the second video? There's one called How Can You Help? And it's a perspective about why do I go, should I go, and let's roll that if we can. I think it's 3 minutes. It's an amazing video. Very, very well done. So we want to give you guys time to ask a question. And if you don't have any, we have some more for them. But don't let that stop you. Any questions over here? Scott's going to work that side.
I got some over here, Jeff.
Okay.
You said that it's like 7,500 just for the well itself. What does the whole trip entail, like as far as the travel and the room and board and everything for the entire team for that one well project?
So the sponsorship of the well is $7,500, and then for a person to participate, it's $1,000 plus your airfare. And the $1,000 covers your room and board, your travel medical insurance, and that's what that covers. So once you're in country, there's no other out-of-pocket expense.
Or ice cream.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of ice cream to be eaten, yeah.
I have two. If someone went and did not speak Spanish, are there interpreters? And the second question is, Honduras is so blessed to have this group. Are there countries around there that have groups that go to them?
Yeah, so basically everybody that we have working in Honduras, there's 10 people, they're all bilingual. So they act as our interpreters. So if I want to go over and talk to somebody, I just grab one of them and I go talk to them. It's really an incredible thing. So that if you're on a trip, we usually have at least 4 or 5 people with that then can be the interpreters for us while we're there. So even if people want to talk to us, that's what we use that for. In other countries, we don't really deal with that.
So Honduras Well Projects is only working in Honduras, and actually the entire country of Honduras only has 2 nonprofit well drilling organizations, ourself and Living Water International. Everyone else, if they wanted to have a well, would be paying $100 a foot for a well. And like we mentioned, the average salary is $15 a day, and we're drilling wells 180 feet. So we are really glad to be a nonprofit and offering that. But there are nonprofits that are drilling in countries worldwide for clean water.
Hey, so I had two. Wow, that's loud. I had 2 questions as well, but Joe stole my first one, so I will ask the second one. What kind of maintenance is required of the wells once they're installed?
Okay, so once the well is in, we actually go back in about a month and do a water test. So that's something we have to do as one of the requirements for the well. And then on every plaque, or every well is a plaque, and it has a phone number, so that if something happens to that well, if it's working, they can call the Agua Viva staff, and that'll put in a note that then we do repair and maintenance teams that come down, that $350 a well to do maintenance, which we flush it all out, pull everything out, put new parts in it, get out working back to new condition. So we do that throughout, and there were 700 wells in northern Honduras before we started, so working wells, so we've sort of taken on those 700 wells. So when people like McKinnis or whoever sponsors, and they come down for a week and they do maintenance on those. Otherwise, we try to get back through every well within a year to 2 years to make sure they stay operational. But like I said, if there's an issue, there's a number they can call so that they can get somebody out there to take a look at it.
Okay, time for one more question. Okay, I think we've got a couple of minutes, so we're going to let you guys have some closing comments. But I wanted to mention, if you're a lady and you're wondering, is this safe for me, talk to Jennifer Humber. Raise your hand, Jennifer. Jennifer's been on 9 or 10 trips. She lives in Millbrook. She attends Cusada Baptist. And John, raise your hand. John Newman from Prattville, the village clock repair guy. A lot of you know him. John has been on numerous trips, so he's why I'm going. I found out about the drilling ministry through John. So got 2 veterans here with us today.
Yes, when we decided to launch Honduras Well Projects, we sent out about 600 emails asking people if they would be willing to partner with us. And Mr. Newman was our second email that we received in his interest. He's been wonderful. But
And,
did you
and
have a?
within this church, talk to Brian Davis. He went with us last year, so he knows. So, but you guys have about a minute left, so any closing thoughts? And we didn't get through all of our questions. But
It looks like he's going to arm wrestle me. Okay.
Whenever I go, I think about something our daughter said on one of her first trips. And she's a young teenager, and she's on a trip, and we were talking about how can those kids possibly tell you they love you when you just met them, right? You've spent a few hours with them in a day, and they're hanging on you, and they're telling you they love you. And she says, well, I don't think that it's really you they love Jesus through you, and they see Jesus in you, and that's the love they have. And I think that just has always stuck with me as to part of why you do that when you go. You hear missionaries come back, and they talk about how they feel when they get back. And before I did any of this, I've heard people on mission trips talk about how they feel when they get back. And I think when you go and you say yes, you answer that little nudge and say yes, you come back with so much. Your cup is so full. And our pastor was talking one day, and that kind of hit me hard that day, that it's the Spirit of God just overflowing out of you is what it is. And it just overflows because you spend the week totally immersed in that. You forget your home, you forget what's going on in your work, all those things, and you just concentrate on what you're doing, and it really puts you in a different place spiritually.
Yeah, our pastor had said, when you separate yourself for 7 days and you're going to do two things, you're going to seek God and you're going to serve people. That's all the whole week is, seeking God and serving people. And all of a sudden, the Holy Spirit is like, yes, you are doing exactly what you were created to do. You were created to seek God and to love people. And so now I'm going to reign all over that. And that's why people come home from a week just feeling like, let's go. Let's go. Let's go in my family. Let's go in my school. Let's go in my church, in my community. And your eyes are open, and you start to see things that before you left just were part of your life, but now your eyes are wide open and you're seeing something brand new. So people in this church, you are making an impact. You are building the kingdom. You're changing lives. You're making life better for people. You're just really making an impact out there. And I want to thank you for all the support you give to those missionaries that we see on the wall, the way that you've treated us while we've been your guests in your town this weekend. But what a beautiful thing it is to give all glory to God, because this is Him. It's not one of us, but it's all because of God. So thank you for having us, and just the love and hospitality that you've shown to us.
Amen. Well, thank you guys for coming all the way from Wisconsin to the sweltering South. Before you leave, Scott's going to pray for you, but thank you guys. Okay.
Join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for today and your grace and mercy, allowing us to come here in this beautiful place of worship with these beautiful people. Thank you so much for Lloyd, Lord, and Julie coming, sharing their heart and the ministry that you've given them. Thank you so much for allowing all of us in this room the opportunity to be a part of that. And I just pray, God, that you will prick our hearts and help us to be sensitive to these needs. Thank you, Lord. This is exactly what Julie said. This is what you've called us to. And basically it's to love God and love others and do it tangibly, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And Lord, I just want to pray over the ministry of Honduras Well Project, the local team of Aqua Viva International, and that God, you will continue to fund and bless and encourage and equip and, make things happen. Lord, because we can see firsthand the life change for these villagers, where they've had no clean water in the history of that village. But here, you've given us an opportunity to help them, to have fresh water so that they can focus on family and worship and love and encouragement and especially be thankful and grateful for the great things that you have done. We just praise you, Lord. And we lift you up in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Well, I just want to thank Lloyd and Julie for coming and joining us, and for Scott and Jeff for facilitating, for Jeff for acting as our host and getting them where they needed to be and all of that. You know, anytime we bring missionaries in, they're always teaching us. They're always showing us. They're demonstrating what God is doing. And, you know, for them to get here, obviously there's costs to come. And so one of the things we want to do is we want to take a love offering for them. And so this morning, if you would like to contribute to that love offering to help with their expenses and ministry and things like that, you can just take one of the envelopes and fill one of those out and just put love offering on it, or Stunkles or Honduras Well Project or whatever you want. Just designate it some way that we know what that is, and then we'll collect that up and provide that for them. So if you have an opportunity this morning, do that. Obviously, you can drop it at any time into one of the receptacles back there. You can do it this morning during this time, or you can do it during church. But thank you for coming and being a part of this morning. Thank you guys for coming and sharing with us. Thank you guys for hosting that. And we will have service starting in about 10 minutes. So see you guys back in here in 10.